Hi everyone, I am here doing a spotlight. It's a particularly special one and one that actually means a lot to me. I'm here with the brilliant Ben Hennessy and Anna Rourke. Ben, you're running an exhibition called Elpis. I cannot get over your paintings, and this particular one, wow. How's the exhibition going?
Yeah, it's going good. There's been an amazing response to it. I think the word itself, the word Elpis, it comes from the Greek mythological word for the spirit of hope. And so a lot of the paintings I've been doing in recent years have made reference to the refugee crisis, and particularly the Syrian refugees, inspired initially by that young boy, Alan Curley, that washed up on the beach in Bodrum in Turkey a few years ago. So I've been painting about, that, and I've had the good fortune, I suppose, to be able to put my money where my mouth is, to say, for want of a better phrase. And I went out to Turkey to work with Anne, and she's kind of a remarkable person who's got this community centre, I suppose, and a resource centre, a support centre really for Syrian women and children. And so I went out there and we've been kind of working away at, I've set up an archery for the children, and we've got some of the women working there. But really these are people who are in such desperate states, who don't have enough food, who are living in absolutely crazy living conditions. And it kind of genuinely wasn't sure whether doing art in that situation is any good, is it some kind of luxury? But on the contrary, it proved to be something that kind of brought a bit of joy, and even I'd say a bit of humanity back to the place. And so in some ways all this work, that spirit of hope, references that spirit of those people who in such desperate situations are trying their best to make a better living for themselves, and we're trying to help them, I suppose.
Well, they say that in giving we receive, and you certainly both, I think, demonstrate that. Your passion is extraordinary. And talk to us about, what inspired you and how did you come about setting up this not-for-profit charity?
Yeah, well, about 5 years ago, I had intended returning, again. And I saw the situation with the refugees and the children drowning and everything, and I just thought, what a waste to sit at home doing nothing. And we can all do something. So I decided I'd head to Greece, and that was the start of my journey. And my journey went from Greece to Athens, to the Macedonia border, and back into Turkey, where there's 4 million refugees. And then I kind of focused in, because I set it up myself, so I focused in on the women and children that are coming across with mothers, husbands are dead or missing in Syria. These are lovely young women that have just no support, they have no family, they don't speak the language, they have no money when they hit Turkey, they just don't know where they are, and the traffickers are following them. So this is really, they were really, we needed to support them. So that was the start of the support community centre, and it's for the last 5 years we work there, and we also have disabled children, 68 disabled children come in every week. And then came like a breath of fresh air, at the beginning of the year last year, and decided he'd come to Turkey, and I was really delighted because it's, you need yourself, you need a bit of support, and great that it's from Waterford as well, So Ben and I are friends a long time. So Ben decided to come, and Ben brought great joy to TIAFI, because it can be a very sad place, because everybody has problems, and they don't have enough to eat. Refugees, it's an interesting one. A refugee, if they're very lucky, will get €8 a month, and that €8 has to feed them, house them. So, like a family, say, a family of 4 is €32 a month, and that includes their home and everything. So they've gone through a lot, and it was great. They've had war, they've had an earthquake, they've had the pandemic, and now there's an economic crisis in Turkey. And like, say, for example, we say bread has gone from one lira 50 kurush to 4 in the last few weeks. So now they really are in terrible trouble.
So right at this moment, for instance,
Yeah.
like when I left there a couple of months ago, Anne was feeding 200 people every day.
Yeah.
They'd come and we would, I did it with Anne a few days, where people
Yeah.
come with their little plastic boxes and we'd hand out meals that 2 Syrian women make every day.
Yeah.
And there's now 350 people coming every day
Yeah.
because of the economic crisis. The lira has dropped, the price of bread has gone up. So there's not only the Syrian refugees, there's a lot of the poor Turkish people in the area. And that's the kind of basic service, food, that's what they
Yeah.
need most. And so, like, I suppose in some ways bringing art into the middle of kind of somebody needing food, you were wondering, is that useful, But as it turns out,
It was useful. It was
useful,
great.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was great to see. It was great to see Ben coming into the centre and the kids getting all excited, and then the smiles on their faces and the happiness he brought to TIAFI that art can bring. I mean, we need more than food. We also need to be enriched by art as well.
We do, and we need hope. And hope,
Yes.
I think that's what you've given them, and
Yes.
your whole exhibition, there's an underlying theme
Yeah.
of hope.
Yeah,
And
that's what they're missing.
hope, it's extraordinary, the story is extraordinary, and I'm not doing it great justice here in a very short length of time, but Ben, I used to read your Facebook posts and cry at night reading it, and they were sad and beautiful at the same time. And you were telling me a little story about a boy. I know there's lots of children you've had, but one particular story you might share with us.
Well, like before I went, actually, Anne had spoken to me about a young girl called Melik, and Melik is wheelchair bound. She's essentially looking after her own family. Her own mother was tortured in a detention centre. Her own mother did drawings of herself chained up. Beautiful drawings with a marker, but and on the ground in front of her was her dead 18-year-old son and her dead brother. And so Melik, who was 14 at the time when I met her in the wheelchair, she said she was looking after her other sister and brother and her mother. And used to joke, kind of say, if you went into Melik's house and you smelled burnt cooking, you know that Miriam, her mother, was after cooking it.
But she wasn't there.
And they're all traumatized, of course.
Yeah.
But Melik was brilliant at drawing. And so we ended up doing a lot of one-on-one. We went up to the roof and we painted the landscape of all the buildings here. And even that idea of a girl in a wheelchair up on the roof, Anne used to tell me, don't let her mother see her. But she developed an absolutely great kind of skill, and I gave her some small kind of tips. But one really interesting thing, I was showing her a technique where I draw with chalk and then I put water on it and it kind of makes it kind of watercolour. And I was drawing the figure of Icarus, the young boy who flew to the sun. So it's a child with wings, really. And it's only when I put the water on it that she saw it had wings, and she said, "Oh, an angel." And this was one of the few English words she had. And she said, "Angel," and I said, "Yeah, it's an angel." And then she said, "You know my name, Melik? When it translates, it means angel." So
I think that Ben is her angel, really, because Melik has very little chance of probably having any kind of a life as a marrying or whatever. So, and for work it would be very hard, and she has to support the family. So now she has this wonderful gift of drawing, and she can she's actually starting to draw faces. Because with the support that Ben got, we have an artist in 2 days a week, and he's helping Melik. So doing this, it means that Melik now can help support her family.
And
so
what age is Melik?
she's now 15.
15.
Wow.
But I was approached, for instance, while I was there, I was
Yeah.
approached by a Syrian chap, and he asked me, could I do a portrait of his brother? And I said I couldn't, but I know somebody who could,
Yeah.
and I gave the job to Melik.
Yeah,
And
so
she did
that's
a stunning portrait, and which she sold. And we also had an auction here. She sold 2 of her drawings here. People in Waterford bought. I mean, she's a gifted thing, and I think it could be the beginning of an actual artistic career for her.
Well, I think that what you've done, Anne, with setting up this foundation, it's inspiring, and it's a privilege to meet you. And we're going to have lunch in the new year with Ben, because I want to hear more. And Ben, you're a great guy. You always were a great guy and gifted. And we're going to put up a link, here. We're going to put up a link here, and if you would like to help give more hope to these young people in terms of how they might get out of this dire situation. Yes. You might donate. We've donated because the reason we've donated is because the work that this foundation has done is awesome, but also it's wonderful to have local people that we know and trust, so we know that the money is getting into the grassroots. And you were talking about some local people that have helped you,
yes.
Worship people.
Yes, Noel Heffer's friend, Noel died 2 years ago, but he was an amazing help to me. And I'm a volunteer, you know, and I have been a volunteer for 5 years. So most of the people working in TIAFI are volunteers. We're not top heavy, you know, so we don't have any. So, you know, if 100 euros given or 50 euros given, the money goes to the refugees. And I think that's terribly important to know, you know.
And 100 euros and 50 euros goes a long way.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Like I was standing with that one day when we were looking at a child getting her new prosthetic legs put on, and the physio was kind of helping her do it.
Yeah.
And that procedure cost like €100, you know, the equivalent of €100. And I said to me, look, I have to try and raise. And I had 50 in my pocket.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll give you 50. And Anne said, well, I'll put the other 50. And there and then immediately that, you know, that child is prosthetic. And some ways in TIAFI that's how it goes, because I've often said, Dan, you can only do what you can do. You know, we can't solve the whole world problems, but the people in front of us, we can affect it. We can give them some bread to eat and give them a bit of food. And occasionally like that, we can, you know, give them a new set of legs.
Yeah.
And that's where the money is going to. You know, it's immediate, straight from my pocket into their pocket.
Yeah. But if you think that at the moment they're getting €8 a month to live on, that includes accommodation, and then you're talking about €100, so you can imagine what that can do for a family, or you're talking about €20, so you can still imagine what that can do.
So we'll put up a link to the charity, but before we go, so I'd like to say a huge thank you, but I would like to just walk through very quickly and show off Ben's magnificent art. These beautiful